hear you having some concerns about the conservative movement. What does concern you about it?
So, classic communist strategy, which was also employed by the Nazis with Kristallnacht, for example, is when you can't get your way directly, what you do is you bait your enemy into doing something stupid so that you can get the massive public opinion to turn against them and disqualify them. This has actually got a name in political warfare that's called political nullification. So, if you can get, for example, I don't know, a bunch of MAGA people to show up at the Capitol on January 6th and then claim there was a giant insurrection and now they're all insurrectionists. Maybe the country buys it and maybe it doesn't. Maybe it polarizes around it, which is what happened for us. It didn't buy the whole narrative, but it did At first it did. I went with conservatives and like, well, I'm going to admit that what happened at the Capitol was completely inappropriate. And it's like, slow down, hombre. But you polarize. But at the end of the day, what you end up doing is every one of those people is being persecuted by the Justice Department and doesn't really have any way around it. I heard recently that they announced, I don't know if this is correct for sure, so don't quote me too far on it, that they're even investigating people that didn't go into the Capitol now who were on the grounds outside. And that they're not done was the particular statement. We are not done with this investigation until we look into they did nothing in the FBI. So imagine that you could bait a large number of people or even a small number of people into taking some kind of a Cowboys versus communists last stand. It's going to be very easy with a public that is not all on board with what's really going on. I talked to a number of people who still are in kind of the Democrat bubble, whether they're academics, whether they're family members, whatever it is. And they are not all, they're tipping out in most cases. They're starting to see cracks, like some stuff's not making sense. The sex books in schools is kind of upsetting to almost every one of them that I know, because they're still decent people besides their weird, CNN religion. But they are not like, even when they tip out, the most common thing I hear from disaffected Democrats is that they want to find a Democrat they can vote for, not a Republican. They're not ready to take the full leap to the other side, so to speak, which they think is cringe and embarrassing and stupid and evil and all these other things. So they're not with you. So if you can get a small group of these people to go Cowboys versus communists, the regime, CNN, the institutions, everybody all at once, this is a vertically integrated messaging apparatus, as I refer to it, will basically shoot like a PSYOPs laser beam onto the population, get them to say Christians are a huge problem, give them the political capital in the Biden administration to start cracking down on churches to the very fullest extent they can stretch 1A. And the Christians have actually taken themselves out of the game rather than done something productive if that were to happen. So all you need is one church that goes full Westboro Baptist or, starts doing something ridiculous or attacks some, drag show shows up and a church goes out to protest it. The next thing you know, Antifa picks a fight. Now there's a scuffle. The only thing that comes out is some dude with a cross and a American flag and a beard punching a kid or something. It turns out he's 16 or something like that. It was an Antifa provocateur wearing like a trans flag. And now the entire public sentiment switches on the issue to, we have domestic terrorists coming out of our churches, and that's a problem we all have to solve. And they're going to push it like crazy. So
I hear you. I mean, we're getting a lot of chats and a lot of questions. And I actually remember when Trump got indicted, everybody wanted to go. And I did a little reel about that. I said, do not go. This is J6 2.0 at that time. I know you've tweeted similar sentiments for the convoy that's heading the border. And the question is then what do we do, right? So they've technically won. If they've silenced us and we can't exercise our First Amendment rights to peacefully gather at a location to protest what our government is doing to us, then they've effectively won. So what can we do? What can Americans do to save their country?
It's very frustrating. And the feeling is that we can't do anything. Are we, in a sense, sacrificing some reach of our ability to assemble? We are, strategically, because we're not dealing with Americans, we're dealing with communists, and they will set you up and take advantage of it, as we learned poignantly at the beginning of 21 on January 6th. And the spell will break where we will be able to gather peacefully and assemble, and the massive public opinion will go with us. At their vertically integrated messaging machine won't work, but that's not yet. And so what we have to do is we have to take every available means that we actually have that's not us walking into a trap. You are not silenced. I saw nothing during the border, but a bajillion tweets a day, people talking about it. I saw a bajillion shows. I saw a bajillion videos. You're not silenced. Just don't show up physically where they're going to try to provoke something that they can get on camera, take out of context, put on CNN and ruin everybody's life. You can say whatever you want on it. Try not to advocate for violence. It's not a good idea. You have to take what other options you have. In this case, what did I do during this? Well, I worked with every rep or every official that I have a connection with in Texas to try to get the legal apparatuses within the state of Texas moving, to file in the circuit court, for example, an appeal to the injunction, asking immediately for constitutional advice to review on the precedents, not an advisory decision. You have to sue for a review of the precedents of what to do when the federal government has claimed Article 4 powers but isn't exercising them, is refusing to exercise them. What now? Turns out there are no precedents for that because the federal government's never gone rogue. So all of a sudden, you open the door for a either circuit court or a Supreme Court to be able to talk about the issue on its merits. Biden played very, very good lawfare with that injunction, which was also just an injunction. The Supreme Court usually doesn't overturn precedents in an injunction hearing. Exactly. But they didn't ask the court to tell what to do or whatever to rule on. They said, will you review your precedents on whether the federal government or state government has authority here? And they did. And the Supreme Court, we're all acting like it betrayed us, actually came back with a very surprising result, which was, yeah, Texas can go put up the wire all they want, and the federal government can go cut it all they want. So what do you do? If you want to be a citizen journalist, don't get provoked into violence. You're rather than a convoy, which could be infiltrated and all kinds of things. Or if you work for the state of Texas, you hire somebody inside your apparatus to go film the federal government cutting the wire, using a forklift to lift the wire, let people pour through, and you make them look bad day after day after day until the, oh my God, 7th of February. That's all you had to wait, because that's when the case is actually being heard in the court. The injunction only lasted 2 weeks. You're flipping out over an injunction for 2 weeks, not the loss of our country at the border. So you have to keep your head, and you have to take advantage legally, using other channels to communicate, to take an organized strategic action. Yeah, write a bajillion letters to the Texas officials. That's what I was doing, or actually texting them and calling them. Do everything within your power to push this through by the book. If you think the book is lost, you're not helping. I understand your frustration. The best thing you can do is donate money to people who haven't lost their head. That's basically what there is left.
And support ballot initiatives like our Protect Kids CA ballot initiative, and support work like yours, and share this information. I think it's really important to educate ourselves and to do, participate in winning strategies, like you said, that don't put yourself in danger, especially when we have a government that has weaponized the Justice Department. And
Merrick Garland's the most dangerous person in this country right now, and people need to recognize it. Like, this is not normal times. So I put this picture on Twitter the other day, and everybody watching the show would not have seen it, but it shows two graphs, and it shows it says your expectations, and it shows a line going up at an angle, and it says progress, right? And then it goes underneath it, it says reality, and it shows you staying at 0 for a long time, and then the line starts going up, and it has a little bracket above the flat part, and it says frustrating but still progress. We have already got past that part. That's what we've been dealing with for the past 5 years at least, is that we're now waking up to the problem. It seems like nothing we do achieves anything. So we're frustrated, we're mad, but now we're actually winning court cases. The court is siding with us. We are actually dismantling their apparatus. DEI will probably die this year. The Supreme Court put a fatal blow in it with college admissions, with a huge decision last year that was done through the courts. It took a long time, that's true, but DEI is not probably going to survive much longer. ESG is on the rocks. They lost the bid for making natural asset companies. Courts are increasingly siding with people that it is a 1A violation in a number of different ways, even profoundly like worldview level ways, not even speech ways, to force people to do the pronoun thing at schools. We're making progress. We're winning school boards. We're winning county boards. We're winning over actually the Republican Party in different states where the Republican Party hasn't been helpful. We're making progress now. There's so much effort, so much energy that can be poured into productive things that are not some, Cowboys versus communists last stand at the border or anywhere else they set us up, at the Capitol, at the border, at the whatever, which turns out, like, I sat back watching this convoy, and I know they want their voice to be heard. Like, what do they hope to accomplish? When the left does a huge protest, they have a piece of policy waiting on the other side, already written, that already has the votes to win. They just are looking for the justification to push it to the floor. What are you going to do? 700,000 people just going to show up in the middle of nowhere in Texas because they said they weren't going to go too close to the border, so they didn't get J6'd. What's the why? What are you accomplishing with it? And so that's just unstrategic action when we have so many productive things to do. You mentioned Protect Kids CA. Imagine getting the issue of all of these child transitions and girls, trans people playing in girl sports directly on the ballot in California. Minimum, what we end up with is a national conversation and the Democrats dumping tens of millions of dollars into trying to stop it while looking ridiculous for trying to stop it. Public opinion has shifted overwhelmingly on this issue in the last 2 years. They overplayed their hand with this big time. And so it's like, that's a very productive use of time. So what do? Find something productive. I understand that it's largely happening through courts, or even through state legislatures, but more through courts, honestly, and back those things up, get involved. 700,000 people want to go to the border. To hell with that. Go to California and help Aaron Friday get signatures.
Absolutely.
You'll get it done in 2 weeks.
Exactly. We could get it on the ballot right away. And like you said, we have, extreme majority of across all party lines supporting this ballot initiative. And we do need all the help that we get. If we took those 700,000 people and got their signatures, we'd have the 550 that we need by mid-April to get it on the ballot. And then it would become law that actually would stave off these harms that you're talking about.
700,000 people. So it's going to cost them a lot of money in gas to drive wherever they were going to drive. So let's say it's $100 in gas and laugh in our hand. So 700,000 people give $100 each to that initiative. That's $70 million.
Do you think we can reroute them to our website, protectkidsca.com? We could just make save a couple bucks for your book. We got to get the audible of your book.
There's a serious answer to this. Is what is driving the concerns that I have on the right is that we are justifiably frustrated. In fact, very frustrated. So the primary thing we're looking for, people say, what do? We want action. They don't want action. They want catharsis. They want something that lets that negative energy out.
Right.
They want to see a breakthrough, not realizing that the way that we're going to win, the way that a corrupt regime or a cartel or anything, look at any case in history. How do they fall? Slowly, then all at once. They slowly get discredited. They slowly start taking losses. They slowly start getting public opinion against them. Then all of a sudden, the whole thing falls to shambles. This happened in the Soviet Union. This happened, in countless regimes in the Middle East and South America. It's happened in every cartel that ever got busted using RICO or before RICO. This is how you take down organized crime, slowly, then all at once. So we're slowly, in fact, we're almost to the tipping point. So this is why it's so frustrating for me, for people to feel, to be that frustrated that they're going to throw it away, because we're at the point where a lot of people realize something's badly wrong, and they're getting a pretty good sense of what it is because we put a lot of information out. We're doing really great educational campaigns across the world, frankly. And we're approaching a tipping point where the thing could fall apart very fast. I don't think DEI survives intact this year, for example, and that's humongous.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, I hope you're right. It's a distraction, and it is frustrating when we have these very real, concrete actions that we need to be working on at this exact moment in time. So I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you.
For me, I do it all the time, and I work with grassroots people all the time. And the grassroots people are doing real work, and it's really easy for me to sit on the internet and run my mouth.
Well, I really appreciate you supporting the Protect Kids CA ballot initiative. We worked really hard on it, and we will see it on the ballot. Earlier, just a couple minutes ago, I'm laughing because you mentioned Garland, and I have a game that I like to play. It's going to take just a couple seconds, 2 minutes. Hopefully you're up for it. Are you up for just a little quick game right now? Have you heard? It's Patriot